Welcome to the EPG Pathshala. Myself, Dr. Swati Dhruv, from the Department of Foods and Nutrition, Faculty of Family and Community Sciences, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. I am here to discuss today the module on nutrition during early and middle childhood. Now, as we all are aware that early childhood, during this phase, nutrition becomes essential for the growth of children, as inadequate nutrition can affect their neurological, physical, social and emotional development. After the rapid growth that occurs during infancy, a generally slow growth between 1 to 6 years is observed. The social and environmental influences have a great impact on the child's food behavior as well as eating patterns. Development of full dentition by the end of 2 years increases the range of foods which can be eaten safely by the children and adds variety to their food. The need for nutrients is increased as growth and development continues. Hence, let us have a look at the nutrients that are required during this particular age group. Looking at the energy requirements of children, they depend on the total energy expenditure, basal metabolic rate, physical activity level and growth rate. Adequate calories should be consumed in order to ensure the required growth and spare proteins for being used for energy. The growth rate fluctuates with age. According to the ICMR 2010 guidelines, the RDA for energy for children between 1 to 3 years of age is 1060 kilocalories per day, while that for children belonging to the 3 to 5 years age group is 1350 kilocalories per day. Now, let us have a look at the protein intake. Now, adequate amount of protein intake is definitely essential for the growth as well as maintenance of the body. A positive nitrogen balance has to be maintained with the increasing muscle mass and bone growth. Now, according to the ICMR, the RDA for protein has been computed as 16.7 grams per day in the age group of 1 to 3 year olds and 20.1 grams per day for 4 to 6 year olds. Coming to the third macronutrient, that is the fat intake. For up to 2 years of age, the fat requirements should be 30 to 40% of the total caloric intake and 15 to 30% of the total caloric intake thereafter. According to the ICMR 2010, the RDA for fat is 27 grams per day for 1 to 3 year olds and followed by 25 grams per day for 4 to 6 year olds. Not more than 10% of the total calories should come from saturated fats. Also, excessive intake of fat and fatty or fried foods leads to, as we all know, overweight and obesity amongst these children, which is definitely a cause of concern these days. Next, coming to the calcium guidelines, depending upon the amount of calcium retention and the absorption capacity of the body, the calcium requirements are calculated. It is required for proper bone growth, mineralization and bone density. The RDA for calcium has been given to be as 600 milligrams per day, assuming that 33% absorption rate. Milk and other dairy products are the primary sources of calcium, as we all know, and inadequate intake of calcium rich foods can lead to poor mineralization as well as increases the risk of one to suffer from osteoporosis in the coming years. The iron requirements, definitely adequate iron is required in order to meet the requirements for growth, which includes the expansion of blood volume, lean muscle mass and building iron stores in the body. Inadequate intake of iron may lead to iron deficiency anemia. Now, assuming a 5% absorption capacity, the RDA for iron in case of 1 to 3 years is 9 milligrams per day and that for 4 to 6 years is 13 milligrams per day. Coming to the vitamin contents, the serum vitamin A levels are observed to be low amongst the Indian children whose intake of vitamin A is less than 100 micrograms per day. Moreover, the incidence of vitamin A deficiency is also observed to be very high. However, when food supplements providing a total of 300 micrograms per day are given over a period of 6 months, the deficiency symptoms is observed to disappear. Now, depending upon this observation and including a safety allowance, the ICMR has suggested an intake of 400 micrograms of vitamin A per day. Next, talking about vitamin D. Now, one of the main functions, as we all are aware, of vitamin D is optimal calcium absorption and deposition in the bones. Now, the major source of vitamin D is the sufficient exposure to sunlight, which is abundantly available in a country like ours. Hence, children are recommended to get involved in outdoor physical activities, and the other dietary sources of vitamin D are milk, cheese, yogurt, egg yolk and fish. In addition to this, the requirements of vitamin B complex are in proportion with the energy requirements. Now, as you can see in the table, it shows that the recommended dietary allowances for children in the age group for 1 to 6 years of age. Hence, now let us have a look at the dietary guidelines for the preschoolers. Now, the dietary guidelines for the preschoolers suggest that the diet should be nutrient dense and in adequate quantity they should be consumed. The diet should include fiber rich foods like fruits, vegetables and whole grains for proper elimination. Also, variety of food items from all the food groups should be included in the diet on a regular basis. Another thing is that the child should be encouraged to complete whatever is served in his or her plate, but taking care that the child should not be forced to eat more than what he or she can take. Food should be served in an attractive and interesting manner that develops interest in the child. Now, for instance, if you take tricolor whole wheat sandwich with a smiley face made on the top of it with vegetables, or for example Frankie roll instead of the usual chapati that we give along with vegetables, etc. This would help to make the food more appealing for the child. Another thing is that food items should be mildly seasoned in order to improve the taste. And also, very importantly, one should avoid foods which are rich in trans fats, saturated fats, as well as excess amount of salt and sugar. Also, the preferences of the child regarding the food should be taken into consideration while planning the menu. So, small and frequent meals should be provided to the child. Another important aspect is that finger foods that the child can easily grab and eat should be prepared by the mother or the cook or the caretaker. Another thing is that the child should be encouraged to eat on his or her own self as much as possible and should be fed in a clean, peaceful and pleasant atmosphere. Now, various cooking methods and procedures should be incorporated or used while planning the recipes, and attractive combinations of food should be prepared for the children, because this is the age where good eating habits can be imbibed amongst them. And new food should be introduced one at a time, and that also in small quantities. And beverages like sparkling water, colas, tea, coffee, etc. should be avoided for this particular age group. And milk products should be given instead on a daily basis, and it should be given in adequate quantities. So, these are the dietary guidelines for preschoolers. Now, let us have a look at the middle childhood age. Now, the school age between 6 to 12 years is observed to be a latent period of growth. Now, during this stage, the growth is slow and the body changes occur gradually. However, cognitive, emotional and social development occurs at a tremendous rate. Now, children need complete nutrition in order to achieve optimal growth and development. So, the nutritional requirements is the same for boys and girls up to 9 years, after which girls outdo boys, and there is a change in some of the nutrient requirements for both boys and girls. So, let us have a look at the energy requirements. Now, the energy needs of children of this age group are determined by the basal metabolic rate, the total energy expenditure on physical activity, as well as the growth rate. Now, there is a steady increase in the caloric requirements during the school age. As I mentioned earlier, up till the age of 9 years, the caloric requirements for boys and girls, they remain almost same, after which it increases to some extent as adequate reserves are being laid down for the growth spurt that would occur during the adolescence phase. Now, the RDA for energy for children between 7 to 9 years is 1690 kilocalories per day, and the caloric requirement for boys between 10 to 12 years is 2190 kilocalories per day, while that of girls is 2010 kilocalories per day. Now, excessive consumption of high calorie foods like fast foods and carbonated beverages may lead to overweight and obesity, which we are seeing amongst the children these days. Coming to the second nutrient, that is protein. Now, in order to obtain optimal nutritional status, supporting proper growth and development of the child, adequate dietary protein is essential. Now, the RDA for protein for children between 7 to 9 years is 29.5 grams per day, and the protein requirements for boys between the age group of 10 to 12 years is 39.9 grams per day, while that of the girls is found to be 40.4 grams per day. Now, girls for approaching menarche would require a slightly higher amount of protein. So, the sources of protein includes animal sources like egg, meat, fish and milk, and plant sources like pulses, legumes and nuts. Animal sources provide all the essential amino acids in order to support the growth of the body. Hence, they are regarded as good quality proteins. Now, in order to obtain complete protein from a vegetarian diet, a combination of cereal and pulse or cereal and milk should be consumed. Coming to the fat intake, the fat should contribute to at least 25% of the total calories. Now, the RDA for visible fat for children between 6 to 12 years is 25 to 35 grams per day, and saturated fats should not be more than 10% of the total fats. An excessive consumption of saturated fats may increase, as we all know, the risk of atherosclerosis. So, food items like ghee, butter, hydrogenated fat, cottonseed oil, full fat milk and red meat, they contain more of saturated fatty acids. Another thing is that refrying in the same oil also leads to the production of trans fats, which are very harmful for our body. Now, different types of vegetable oils upon rotation or a combination of it, that is 2 or 3 oils, should be used in order to get the maximum benefit of mono unsaturated fatty acids and poly unsaturated fatty acids. Now, vegetable oils such as groundnut, rice bran and sesame oil are rich in mono unsaturated fatty acids, while sunflower, corn, mustard and soya bean are rich in PUFA. Now, coming to the minerals, the calcium requirements. Now, adequate mineralization, bone growth and especially for obtaining peak bone mass requires adequate intake of calcium during the period of 10 to 19 years of age. Now, the RDA for calcium for children between 7 to 9 years is 600 milligrams per day, while that between 10 to 12 years of age is 800 milligrams per day. Now, increased requirements of calcium can be met by consumption of milk and milk products, green leafy vegetables, pulses, sesame seeds, etc. Coming to another mineral intake, that is iron. Now, the expansion of blood volume and lean body mass amongst children between 6 to 12 years of age increases the iron requirements. Now, the RDA for iron in children between 7 to 9 years of age is 16 milligrams per day, while for 10 to 12 years of age is 27 milligrams per day for girls and 21 milligrams per day in case of boys. Now, girls have higher requirements of iron between the age of 10 to 12 years as compared to boys. Now, this is in order to support the menarche and menstrual blood loss that occurs. Now, inadequate iron intake along with menstrual iron loss may lead to iron deficiency anemia. Now, zinc is another mineral which plays an important role in providing proper immune functioning to our body. Also, it is required for physical growth, cell division, DNA synthesis and sexual development. An inadequate intake of zinc increases the risk of mortality and morbidity amongst children, and also the susceptibility to various infections like diarrhea and pneumonia. So, the RDA for zinc is 8 milligrams per day for children in the age group of 7 to 9 years and 9 milligrams per day for 10 to 12 years of age. And the dietary sources of zinc include lean red meat, whole grain cereals, pulses and legumes. Now, coming to the magnesium intake. Now, magnesium, as we are aware, is important in the transmission of nerve impulse and for proper neuromuscular functioning. So, the RDA for magnesium for children between 7 to 9 years is 100 milligrams per day, and magnesium requirements for boys between 10 to 12 years of age is 120 milligrams per day, while that for girls is 160 milligrams per day. Coming to the vitamin intakes. Now, vitamin A, the recommended intake of vitamin A for children in the age group of 6 to 12 years is 600 micrograms per day of retinol or 4800 micrograms per day of beta carotene. And vitamin A, as we all are aware, plays a vital role in normal vision, growth, immune function and various metabolic functions. So, the dietary sources of vitamin A, as we are aware, are liver, fish, milk, egg yolk, butter, dark green leafy vegetables, that is for beta carotene, and yellow and orange colored fruits and vegetables. In addition to this, the ICMR has not recommended RDA for other fat soluble vitamins like D, E and K because of the fact that vitamin D is synthesized in sufficient amounts from exposure to sunlight, and vitamin E and K are widely available in the vegetable oils like soya bean, canola, olive, corn oil and also in the green leafy vegetables. Hence, dietary deficiency is normally not observed for these vitamins. Now, children are recommended to involve or get involved in outdoor activities and also eat balanced meals. Coming to the vitamin B complex and vitamin C, that is ascorbic acid requirements. Now, the requirements of vitamin B is in proportion to that of the total caloric requirements. So, vitamin B includes wide range of vitamins like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, folate and vitamin B12 required for energy metabolism, amino acid metabolism and also for the synthesis of tissues, RNA and DNA. And vitamin C, as we know, it serves as an antioxidant as well as plays a significant role in iron absorption and also in providing immunity and also for collagen synthesis. Now, the table below shows the recommended dietary allowances for children in the age group of 6 to 12 years of age. Now, let us have a look at the dietary guidelines for these school children. The diet provided should meet the recommended dietary allowance, that is the first and the foremost thing, in order to support the increased physical activity as well as the growth requirements. Also, quick and easy to eat as well as nutritious recipes should be planned for children, which they can consume before play or school or classes. Also very important is variety of recipes incorporating various food groups using different cooking techniques should be prepared so that they do not get bored with the same kind of food items. And interesting combinations of food items should be planned and presented in an attractive manner. Another thing is that small and frequent meals should be provided to the children in adequate quantities in order to suffice their appetite. Another thing is that children should be encouraged to sit and have meals along with the entire family. So, after having looked at the requirements, let us have a look at the various nutritional concerns during the childhood period. Now, inadequate and incorrect diet along with environmental and socioeconomic factors plays a major role in precipitating nutritional problems during childhood. Now, these nutritional problems, they include dietary deficiency disorders and chronic infections. Now, the major nutritional disorders include malnutrition, comprising both over and undernutrition, as well as vitamin A deficiency and anemia. Now, let us look into these nutritional problems in detail. Now, coming to undernutrition. Now, underweight or lack of weight gain in children can be attributed to various factors like acute or chronic infections, poor sanitation and hygiene, poor appetite, conditions like constipation or diarrhea, poor feeding practices, restricted nutritional intake, or unavailability or lack of food. Now, preschoolers, they are more prone to growth failure with regard to underweight, that is low weight for age, and stunting, that is low height for age. Now, two of the major factors which are responsible for growth failure are the faulty feeding and poor child care practices which are followed by the caregivers. Now, lack of frequent and adequate feeding due to inadequate knowledge and awareness regarding the nutritional requirements of the child leads to decreased caloric nutrient intake. Such children are more prone towards bacterial as well as parasitic infections in poor environmental sanitation due to low immune power. Now, this again leads to impaired utilization of nutrients, worsening the condition of the child. So, optimal catch-up growth with provision of adequate nutrition and proper treatment becomes necessary in order to prevent stunting, as it is irreversible once it sets in. Now, apart from that, improving the child's appetite and environmental conditions should also be taken into account. Now, in this concern or this regards, the government of India has also taken an initiative to improve the nutritional status amongst the children by introducing, one of them is, for example, Integrated Child Development Services, which we commonly call as ICDS, and the Midday Meal Scheme, that is the MDM. Now, under the ICDS program, children from 7 months to 6 months, they are the beneficiaries over here in the Anganwadi center. They are provided with supplementary nutrition of 500 kilocalories and containing 12 to 15 grams of protein daily for 300 days in a year. Now, the children from 7 months to 3 years of age are also provided with THR, that is the take home ration, such as sukhdi, upma and shira food packets. This was given earlier by the government of Gujarat. Now, along with supplementary nutrition, regular growth monitoring in terms of height or length, weight and BMI is also observed in order to keep a check on the growth rate and faltering of the child with respect to its age. The other problem observed amongst these children is that of overnutrition. Now, the increasing prevalence of overweight and obesity is one of the major alarming health problems both in children, especially preschoolers, and also in adults in the developing countries. Now, the various factors contributing to overweight and obesity are excess of caloric intake, changes in the dietary pattern, decrease in physical activity or what we call physical inactivity, urbanization, and in case of children they do not play any outdoor games, leading a sedentary lifestyle and increased consumption of fast foods. Now childhood obesity, if not tackled at an early age, it can outgrow into adolescence and adult obesity. Now this can further result in psychological consequences like depression, negative self-image, decreased socialization and increased risk of morbidities like hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes and hyperlipidemia. Hence, overnutrition problems should be diagnosed and controlled or prevented or treated at the early start of life. So, management of overweight and obesity should be a comprehensive, wholesome approach which includes various components like modifications in the diet, behavioral changes, increase in physical activity and supportive as well as motivating environment and nutrition awareness and involvement of friends and family members. Now let us have a look at the micronutrient deficiencies that children suffer from. So vitamin A deficiency is due to inadequate levels of vitamin A in the blood and tissues of the body. Now vitamin A is very important micronutrient which is responsible for maintaining normal growth, visual functions, immune and reproductive functions and also for regulating the cell proliferation and differentiation. Now according to the World Health Organization, over 1/3 of children under 5 is suffering from vitamin A deficiency. The major causes of vitamin A deficiency is substantially inadequate intake of vitamin A as compared to the recommended dietary allowances as required. Now the depletion of vitamin A stores are also associated with various comorbidities like respiratory infections, diarrhea, measles and childhood mortality due to compromised immune function. And clinical manifestations of vitamin A deficiency include night blindness, keratomalacia, conjunctival xerosis, corneal xerophthalmia, Bitot spot and complete blindness. So, the National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau and ICDS survey shows that 1 to 5% of preschoolers are suffering from Bitot spot and 0.04% children have blindness due to vitamin A deficiency in India, which can be prevented. Hence, vitamin A deficiency should be diagnosed and treated at an early or as early as possible before its irreversible outcome sets in. So, in this regards, the Government of India has launched the National Prophylaxis Program against nutritional blindness in order to prevent vitamin A deficiency and its consequences way back in 1970. Under this program, massive dose of 1 lakh international unit of vitamin A is given to preschool children at starting from 9 months of age along with measles vaccine, and subsequently then after that 2 lakh international units of vitamin A at every 6 months is given till 5 years of age. Now prevention of vitamin A deficiency should also include measures like providing nutrition health education, early initiation of breastfeeding, colostrum feeding, adequate daily intake of vitamin A rich natural foods as well as fortified foods. And also the formation of kitchen gardens, that is promotion of kitchen gardens, and vitamin A supplementation and prevention and treatment of infections. Now inadequate dietary, another thing is the inadequate dietary intake of iodine, which would lead to iodine deficiency diseases. This is also one of the major health concerns amongst the children. Now urbanization over a period has led to a lot of environmental destruction, one of which happens to be the erosion of iodine rich soil that has resulted in iodine deficient crop production. Now IDD, it affects children in numerous ways, like for example it can lead to cretinism in small children, mental retardation, poor psychomotor skills, hearing and speech impairment, and poor problem solving or analytical capability. Hence, in order to tackle the problem of IDD and reduce its incidence, government has initiated National Iodine Deficiency Control Program, under which we have universal iodization of salt, which has been adopted, and it was assured that the salt at the household level should have 15 parts per million of iodine. Apart from IDD, iron deficiency anemia is also a major cause of concern amongst children. Now, iron deficiency anemia has been proven to be linked with poor cognitive as well as motor development, behavioral issues, and decreased academic performance amongst the children. The clinical manifestations of iron deficiency anemia include pale skin, koilontia, dizziness, headache, tiredness as well as breathlessness. Now, to combat this iron deficiency anemia, the Government of India has launched the National Iron Plus Initiative, that is NIPI, under which they provide bi-weekly iron supplementation to preschool children in the age group of 6 months to 5 years, and weekly supplementation for children from 1st to 5th grade in government as well as government aided schools, as well as weekly supplementation for out of school children in the age group of 5 to 10 years at the Anganwadi centers. Thus, summarizing this module on nutrition during early and middle childhood, today we have seen, or we have had a look at the nutritional requirements during early and middle childhood as well as the dietary guidelines for the same. We have also discussed the nutritional concerns during childhood. We also saw the major nutritional disorders, which include malnutrition comprising both over as well as undernutrition, and various micronutrient deficiencies. In addition to this, various programs which have been launched by the Government of India for combating the micronutrient deficiencies. Thank you.